Hi, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create a seat locator, an interactive seat locator for a wedding reception, but it could equally be used to create a stand locator at an exhibition centre or maybe a store locator at a shopping centre. So let's have a go at doing this. Let's just say that you do need 7.5.16 of RightBooth. Because quite a few of the features I'm showing you here only exist in that version. So the first thing I want to do is to create a new event, and I'm going to create an information event. That's here. Click Next. Now I'm into the wizard and it's actually showing me a screen that I'm going to use as the background. Basically you do that by choosing an image from the RightBooth media library, and I went for one in the wedding and Valentine section, and that's this one here. Click Next. The button style that it's offering here is not really important in an information event because we're not going to be using any interactive buttons, so I'll just click Next. The font style, I've gone for French script MT. You can choose anything you like. I'm going to change the colour to black here. Now it'll look a lot better in the editor. Let's move on, you'll see that in a minute. I'm going for an English language, and I'm going to change the title. I'm going to assume we've got Ian and Sarah, and it's their wedding reception, and let's call it the seat locator. Next. Now we're not interested in a camera for this event, so I'm just going to click Next, and RightBooth will now create my information event. Okay, let's go straight into the screen editor. Now as you can see, RightBooth has created an information event with just a start screen, and this is it, and it's just got our title on. I'm going to move it to the top. Let's look at properties. I'm going to make this bigger. That's probably good enough, and I'm just going to edit this and take this down to the next line. Just widen that out slightly. If I just right click on this, I can center the text on the screen. That looks okay. Right, the next thing to do is to add another screen. So I'll click Add Items, click Screen, and I'm going to name it Plan. Click the OK button, and it's added to the top of the list. I'm going to move it down below the start screen. I'm going to give it the same background as the start screen, so I need to look at Properties, Background Image, back into the media library, Wedding and Valentine, and here we are. I also want to put the title on this screen as well. Now the easiest way to do that is to go back to the start screen, click on this item, copy, back to the plan, paste, and it puts it exactly in the same place. Okay, what I need to do now is to design the seating plan. So to keep this tutorial reasonably short, I'm going to assume that Ian and Sarah have only got 6 guests. So I'm going to have some tables and chairs onto this plan. Let's go to Images, and on this version of RightBooth in the media library there is a new folder with tables and chairs in it, as you can see here. So I'm going to have a top table, let's say that one, let's put that there, and I'm going to have just 2 other tables. Let's take that one, and I'm going to duplicate that by copying and pasting, and note it pastes it directly on top, so I just drag it across. Now, so we've got Ian and Sarah and we have 6 guests, so I need 8 seats. Let's go back to Images. I'm going to choose this one. If I select it and copy it, and now if I hit the paste button 7 times, I'll get another 7 copies of that seat directly on top of it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I should now have 8 seats. So let's just move these down here. As you can see, they're all there. So I'm taking 4 seats out of the way down here. I drag a rectangle around the other 4 and I rotate them round 90 degrees, sorry, 180 degrees, and I should now find that they're all rotated. So this is the top table. Obviously you can play around with the sizes. And then the other guests are going to be at these 2 tables. They're just 2 on each. So I'll have 2 here and 2 here. Right, I'm just going to resize everything slightly. So I'm just going to drag a rectangle around everything. Now if I size that, everything sizes. Okay, that's a bit better. Put these here. Make these tables smaller. So drag a rectangle around those 2. Size 1, the other one will size. And then put these seats here. So obviously you can create your plan however you want it. Now I'm leaving space in the middle, and you'll see why later. Let's just move those up slightly. Right, I think I'm happy with that. So when you've designed your plan with your seats and your tables, what you need to do then is to create an image of it. Now how do you do that? Let me just close this down for a second. What you do is you right click anywhere on the background, capture the screen, and what it's doing now, RightBooth is prompting me to save the screen capture somewhere into the media library. So I'm going to put it into the backgrounds folder within the wedding and Valentine's section, which is here. So go into here and let's give it a name. So I'm going to call it Ian and Sarah Plan, and let's save that. Let's return back to the start screen. Now the idea on the start screen is that we're going to have a list of names and we're going to ask the users, the guests, to touch their name, and then it will show them where they are going to sit on the plan. So we will start with a label that's going to prompt the guest. So I'm going to add another label and I'm going to say, welcome, touch your name to find your seat. Let's go for properties, and I'm just going to make that text a bit bigger. Let's widen it out so it's on a single line. Again, centralize. Right, the next thing to do is to start adding names for all of the guests. So let's just add another label. So I'm going to start with Sarah, and it's Sarah Smith. Let's make this bigger. There we go. And just size it. Now, we want Sarah to be able to touch her name and to move to another screen. So we're going to give Sarah's label a click action, which is down here, and it will be to go to another screen. Show a screen. Now at the moment we don't have a screen for this to go to, so the next thing to do is to create a screen for Sarah. Add items, screen, and I'm going to name this screen Sarah Smith. Notice again that RightBooth puts the Sarah Smith screen at the top of the list, so I'm going to move it down the list because we want the start screen to be the first screen that plays. So I'll move it down to the bottom, Now, at this point, what I want to do is I want to set the background of Sarah Smith's screen to be the saved plan that we had made. So what we do is we go to Image for the background, and as you can see now that we have got the plan that's been saved into the Wedding and Valentine's section. So click this and click OK. Now at this point, this background is just one image. So you can't move any of the seats around, you can't move the title, it's just an image. Now what we want to do is we want to indicate to Sarah where she needs to sit. So what I'm going to do is put another label on here. And I'm just going to say, "Hi Sarah, this is your seat." And increase the font size again. Let's just reduce that slightly. Centralize, right click, center horizontally. Now we need to indicate where she's going to sit. So she's the bride, she's going to be on one of these two seats here. So how shall I do that? I'm going to add another object. This time I'm going to add an image. Now if I go back to the objects screen, the objects section in the media library, there is a rotating smiley face here which is quite useful. So I'm going to click that one. So it's a small animated GIF. And I'm going to position it on top of her seat. Let's just reduce that slightly. So that's indicating to Sarah where she's sitting. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just have this screen showing for 4 seconds. So let's look at the screen properties. Here we have the timeout. Change that to 4, so this screen will show for 4 seconds. Now what I want it to do is after 4 seconds I want the screen to time out and go back to the start screen. So in here I'm just going to enter start as the screen name. Now if I go back to the start screen, if I click on Sarah, the click action for Sarah is to show a screen and we want it to go to the Sarah Smith screen. So let me just click in here and type Sarah Smith. Right, let's test this and see what happens. So come out, play it, let's click Sarah, and this is showing where Sarah sits. After 4 seconds it times back to the start screen. Now we need to add all the other guests. So I press the escape key and go back into the editor. Now one of the new features in the latest version of RightBooth is that you can duplicate objects. Let's right click on Sarah Smith and I'm going to create more labels. So I'm going for Ian Smith, that's the groom, and then I'm going to put the guests in. We've got Jane Smith, John Smith, Ann Jones, N Jones, Karen Green, and finally Mark Green. If I click the OK button, RightBooth will generate all the other names. So I'm just going to put them into various places. Now, what I also need to do is to create a new screen for each of the new guests. So the way to do that is to click on the Sarah Smith screen, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to replicate this screen 7 times. So the way to do that is to right click on the background and click Create More Screens. Again, I'm going to put the names of the guests in. So we've got Ian Smith, that's the groom. We've got Jane Smith, Karen Green, and Mark Green. Click OK. Now you can see that RightBooth has added the new screens directly after Sarah. So that's the Sarah Smith screen. Let's have a look at the others. They're actually identical. So we just need to edit each one. The Ian Smith screen, we move that over there. We double click this and just put Hi Ian. Jane Smith, well, we'll say that Jane sits there. Double click. Hi Jane. John Smith, he can be here. Double click. John. Anne, she's down here. Ben, her partner, is on this table. Karen, she's over on this table. And finally Mark. So I've now modified each of the guest screens. Let's quickly check them. Bride Sarah, top table, along with Ian. And then we've got Jane and John on the top table. Anne is down on the left with Ben. Karen is down on the right with Mark. So that's correct. The next thing we need to do is to go back to the start screen. Now, if you remember, this label was copied 7 times to make these other guest labels. If I look at the properties for Sarah, her action is show screen, Sarah Smith screen. The problem here at the moment is that all these other ones are also going to the Sarah Smith screen, if you look at them. So all I have to do is edit each one of these to go to the right screen. So Ian Smith goes to the Ian Smith screen. John goes to the John Smith screen. Jane Right, so all these links should now be okay. Let's test it. Actually, before I do test it, let's save it. I'm going to save the event as Ian and Sarah plan. Play the event. So click on the Sarah link. We see Sarah's screen. 4 seconds, we come back to the start screen again. The next guest, Ian Smith. 4 seconds, back to the start screen. That's John, Jane, and so on. Okay, that's how to create a seat locator. It's quite a simple one here. You can make it as complicated as you like. But what would happen if we suddenly had a new guest to add? Let's take a look at what you might do there. So I'm going to escape and back into the editor. So we still have the plan screen. Now the planner has got all these elements separately. Now that's good because it allows us to add more stuff here. So let's add another table. We have one more guest. So I'm going to create another image. This time back to the tables and chairs. I'm just going to have a separate table. Let's just have a square one. put that table here. And I need another chair, so I'm going to duplicate that one, copy, paste, drag this over here. The thing is that everything else, all the other screens, do not have this new table yet. So how do we get that new table onto all the screens? Go back to the plan, right click, capture the screen, and we're going to capture the screen back to where we captured it last time, which was in the Wedding and Valentine section. So in this folder we've got the Ian and Sarah plan. Now every screen in this event is using that plan screen as a background at the moment. So if I overwrite this with the new plan, if I now go to these screens, you will see that they've been updated with this new seat. So that's the reason for this plan screen. If I modify the plan in any way by dragging something around or adding or removing things, and then I right click and capture the screen and overwrite the background image, what will happen is that all the other screens will automatically get that new plan background. So that's quite useful. So what I need to do now obviously is to let's go to this screen. I'm going to copy and paste this screen. So I just hit copy, paste, and it's asking me for a name. So let's call this Fred Smith. Let's put it at the top of the list. I'm going to move it down to the bottom of the list. So I can now say hi Fred and move Fred over here. Back to the start screen, copy one of these, paste it back in, edit the new name, go to the properties and link it to the Fred Smith screen. And that's it. I've added a new guest and I've altered the plan. Let's just check that works. I'm going to save it, play, go to the Fred Smith screen, back to the start screen, click anything else, and you can see that the new seat is on all the other screens. Okay, finally I want to talk about voice input control. So at the moment this system is driven by a touchscreen, but you could equally just talk to it if you set up correctly with a microphone for voice input. The way to do that is to go into settings and turn on voice within the user input section. So now I should be able to just say the names and it will take me to the screens. So let's try that. Play the event. Ian Smith. John Smith. Mark Green. So that works quite well. Now if you just want it to be voice input only, one way to do that is to come back into the editor, just edit this and say welcome, please speak your name, to find your seat. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hide all these, put this further down, and the way to hide these is to zoom out, select them all and just move them completely off the screen so you can't see them. You still need them because the way that the voice input recognition system works is it's looking for any text object that's got an action on it. So these still have to be on the screen, it's just that you won't see them. So zoom back up to 1. All the labels are now not visible, but it should still react to the spoken name. So let's just come out of that and try that again. John Smith. Sarah Smith. And as you can see, it's reacting to the voice input. Okay, I hope that helps you with your seating plan designs.